All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. We have a pretty full agenda. The most important thing I want to announce today is there are tacos in the little break room in there, and we're just going to proceed with the meeting, but they're for everybody. So get up and, don't form a line more than 2 or 3 people deep. Otherwise, it looks like you're here for another reading. Okay. So, but yeah, y'all go ahead and dig into those. So first thing is, first, welcome to this workshop. Well, script. Welcome to Taco Thursday, September 7th, 2023. It's 1:30. Anybody sign up to, okay. There's no public comments. We'll move right into the regular work session. Item 1 is to discuss if maybe needed any regular meeting agenda items. I know that we're pulling 1 for voting purposes only. And I don't guess we're actually pulling it, but it's on the regular agenda for voting purposes. So, council, is there anything on the regular or consent agenda that needs to be discussed?
Oh, are we pulling one or no?
Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. It's already been pulled. It's only just for voting purposes.
Okay.
And it's item, which one is that?
9.
Item 9. So we've already pulled it. I'm sorry. Anything else? That, anything?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
number 6, zoning case,
Yes.
we are going to request that you all table that. It's a plan development for self-storage, and their site plan has some issues.
Okay.
Setbacks that are in violation of our code, adjacent to single-family residential, which we would not support. And so we let them know that we're going to table it,
Okay.
and so that they can revise their site plan.
Okay. That's on the regular agenda.
Yes, sir. Number 6.
All right. So we'll plan on tabling 6. I read it in,
But 9
then
is
request for
full?
table, correct? And that,
9 is full.
no, 6 is pulled.
Right.
9 is there just for voting purposes. For Councilmember Cookie.
Oh, I get you.
Okay. Anything else, anybody? That's it? All right, next item is to receive a presentation regarding the fiscal year 2024 Temple Police Association meet and confer agreement. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor and council. This is a presentation for you all today. And we have this tentatively scheduled now for the 21st council meeting for ratification. So just a quick overview of the meeting confer process altogether, that is governed by Chapter 142 of the Local Government Code, which does allow Police Officers Association to file a petition with the city that requests that the city recognize the association as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent for all officers and to adopt a meet and confer process. That process allows the city to meet and confer with the Police Officers Association over several matters such as pay, hours of work, and other terms and conditions of employment. And those deliberations must occur in meetings that are open to the public. So we post an agenda every time, we have minutes, it's all very public. Continue on with that. We are not required to meet to reach an agreement on any particular topic. So what we've been doing is 2-year agreements. This agreement does expire at the end of September of this year. So had we not reached an agreement, if it didn't go through, then we would not have an agreement anymore. Any agreements, so what we call is tentative agreements, we come up with tentative agreements through these deliberations. Those are in writing and signed by the lead representative of both TPA and the city. And then an agreement, any article then would need to be ratified by a vote on the council and a majority of the police officers. The written meet and confer agreement does preempt any contrary state statutes, local ordinances, executive orders, civil service provisions, or rules, but it does allow variation of the civil service rules in regard to hiring requirements, pay, benefits, promotion standards, and the disciplinary process. So talking a little bit about where we started in October of last year, we started out with training with the Million Group. He's conducted training with us in the past. It was really helpful. There's a lot of new members from TPA this time around, so I think that was very beneficial. In November, came up a little bit wrong. We started the civil service market study, so we began discussions regarding that. And then in January, we updated the ground rules. We didn't substantially update them. It was just the team members involved. Then in August, we came to an agreement with the tentative agreements on all of those. And then in September, we're requesting ratification. So here are your meet and confer team members. These are the primary members, as I stated. I serve as the lead negotiator. And then these are the additional team members. We have a representative, of course, from finance, people operations, police department, and city attorney's office. For the Temple Police Association, what they have done is have the TPA president as the lead negotiator. So the last time when we were meeting, it was Mike Bolton. This time it's Wes Carr. So a lot of new, like I said, new people, with the exception of Joe Demento. He was there last time as well. These are what we have in the ground rules as the alternates. Also very substantial folks. I will say, just want to say that Melissa Trabilski and Jess Martin and Chief Reynolds, they come to every one of our meetings. And Jess Martin is actually a new member on the team that we added in the ground rules this year. And I cannot say enough about him. He was just absolutely amazing. He ran all of our calculations, provided a lot of recommendations, and just great addition. I think that was Tracy's recommendation. That was great to have him on there. So a lot of work from all these team members, and then you'll often see a lot of TPA members as well that are alternates at these meetings. And so just a little bit about this. I don't know if I talked about this before, but this is a process every time. So we typically have meetings where we go over initially the list of issues, and we discuss all those issues. And then what we do is I meet with the team, the main team that was at the TPA meeting confer meeting, and we then develop recommendations that we take forward to Bryn Myers, our city manager. And then once she evaluates those, we come back and continue our negotiations. So this is something that really does provide a venue for us to have communication and collaboration between city administration and the police officers, so we can discuss those important employment issues. We focus primarily the fiscal year 24 agreement on compensation, as well as both non-substantial cleanup of the existing agreement and substantive issues. So the current agreement is 17 articles, and our draft agreement is also 17 articles. We didn't add any this time around, but we did make substantive changes to 6 articles, non-substantive change to 1 article, and we removed 1 article. So you're probably wondering why we don't have 16 articles. We removed 1 article, which is the military leave time account. It's because what we did was that was number 3, I think. So what we decided to do is to have that reserved to where we would have something future. So you'll see that when they comes forward. So still 17 articles, but a total of 16 issues. The reason that we decided to delete the military leave time account is because it was basically a copy and paste directly from the statute, with the exception that I think there was one part in it that said that in December of each year that we would provide a report to the association that would include the current balance of military leave time account and the amount used by each police officer in the previous year. And we stated that we can do that for them, or they can just ask us for it, and everyone agreed.
You mean for the individual people that have used military leave?
Yes, exactly. So that's available at any time.
Yeah.
And Tara, or people operations director, can provide that. So we all agreed that was good. This is show all of the different articles that we have, with the exception, of course, the military leave time account. So, and then I highlighted in blue the ones that we have made or recommending changes to you all. So I'll start out with Article 4, compensation. So this article, just to go over that, does establish a time frame for us to work together on the market study, and then compensate officers fairly for certifications, degrees, vacation accruals, and observed holidays. So some changes that we're recommending is that certified officers and probation officers who have completed field training are eligible to receive their TCOL certification pay and incentive pay that's related to college hours and degrees earned. Previously, it was a very minor change. Previously, it was officers that were assigned to work an evening or midnight shift. There was also a request for officers retiring due TBD to right now, they are eligible to receive a maximum of 160 hours of vacation pay and recommending that doubling to 320 hours of vacation pay. And I should have said this earlier on. Another major focus, I would say, of the Temple Police Association during our meeting for deliberations was to really focus on recruitment and retention of officers. So that was their major focus, and a lot of these recommendations forward in here are hopes that we can increase recruitment, show the city of Temple as the employer of choice versus other cities, and really increase the number of officers on our police force. So that's why you see a lot of things in that they felt like increasing the vacation hours would help recruit more officers.
And another thing on that one is that their officers have the opportunity to take terminal leave. So if they are retiring, they can take the last few months of few weeks of their time. And so the idea of increasing the maximum hours that they would be able to be paid out, encourage people to not take vacation and remain on duty, since we do have shortages in officer positions right now. So it's not a significant financial impact because it was vacation time versus payout, but we're hoping that in addition to recruitment, it also helps them officers be willing to continue working closer to their actual.
And then,
When you, excuse
oh,
me,
yes,
when
go
you increase double from 160 to 320, that's accrued time that they've already accrued.
yes,
Okay,
they would have had to have
Yeah.
at least and meet all the requirements.
right. So we're just acknowledging what they have.
Mhm.
Okay,
But the maximum that, like, if they had less than 320, they wouldn't be eligible to receive. So,
the 320.
Exactly,
Right,
yeah.
got it.
but
okay.
as Ms. Meyer stated, that's an excellent point. I'm glad she said that, is that often you'll have people that want to utilize their vacation time, and instead of utilizing it at the time, they'll wait. And so
Sure.
this will really open up positions a lot sooner, hopefully. What we did was we revised the date. So of course we did the civil service market study, as I stated. So we revised that date that we would meet no later than January 15th, 2025 to look at that compensation study. Another thing that the officers, because there's a shortage on staff, is that they let us know about is that often they will have to work a city holiday. And so what happens is that they're offered time, I think, to take off for that in their time, but it's just not, it doesn't work really well. So they're not always able to either take off that time, or it's not a desirable time for them to take off. So they requested to receive compensation for working a maximum of 3 City of Temple observed holidays each year. This is all with the idea that, we are not at full capacity within our police force, and that's why several are required to, or all are required to work all of the observed holidays. So what we did was we added in there that this would have a sunset clause and be subject to review every 2 years. And that's why it's called the Holiday Payout Pilot Program. So, that hopefully will able to be terminated once they reach adequate staffing of certified officers and probation officers.
But like they get double pay, or they get compensated when they work anyway, right?
They do, but it's not, they may not get time enough. Okay.
What happens if, so say that an officer is scheduled over Christmas, they get that holiday, they work Christmas Day, but then they bank that holiday to use at a different time. So the idea here, instead of just a random day in June or a random day in August where they're gonna take their Christmas day, they would get paid for basically.
So they get paid holiday and they get paid for work.
Yes,
Right.
and the reason that we're proposing this as a pilot program and during this interim time is because, again, it will help keep officers on the street. So instead of being forced to take a vacation day at some point or a holiday at some point, if they want to, and it's voluntary, they can go ahead and work their shift day And instead of taking it as leave, they just get it paid out instead.
So the next article is overtime compensation. We added in here that I think all officers are required to work these events and holidays. So this is listing those major events and holidays that we know every officer is required to work right now. And so they'll be compensated at paid time and a half. Since we have the adopted special events strategic plan and we're implementing that, what we did was we added in the major events, the tier 1 events, with the addition of the tier 2 event, Petals and Pines. So we made that consistent with that. In addition to that, we've added New Year's Eve day, because, oftentimes a lot of officers will, I'm sure, work both, and National Night Out. And so then you see at the bottom here, because we're implementing the Holly Jolly Christmas Fest starting in fiscal year 25, that would apply to the Christmas parade and tree lighting this upcoming fiscal year. So then Article 7 is temporary duties in a higher classification. This was your non-substantial change right here. So we revised this section to designate a sergeant to perform duties of a lieutenant or watch commander when they're absent or unavailable for a period of 14 days, consecutive days. Previously, it was 28, and that was just a lot of time. So we need to have someone designated in there. The lateral transfer and rehire program that establishes that expedited process for hiring qualified candidates with previous law enforcement and experience. And if you remember, we made a lot of clarifications to this, I think last time, where we outlined exactly what is rehire, who is considered a lateral, and that's defined very well within this. But looking at this, one thing to note is that basically you're considered a rehire if you've been gone only up to 24 months. So you could have someone that has left the Temple PD that has been gone 3 years, and then they would be considered and work for a police agency, but they would be considered a lateral if they were to come back. So they've really worked hand in hand together is what we found. So what we did was we revised this section to apply to both lateral entries and rehires. So this first bullet here stating the programs are for pay purposes only, and actual work experience at another law enforcement agency will not be considered for promotional eligibility purposes. Previously, that was only laterals, and then we've combined to be both. And then officers rehired will receive credit for time worked in TPD for promotional eligibility. So that used to only apply to rehires and now applies to rehires and lateral transfers. We also made some changes here that lateral transfers and rehires are eligible to sit for a promotional exam, provided that they meet the requirements of a certified Temple police officer and have completed a 12-month probationary period. Previously, how that was stated was that rehired officers sit for an exam after 2 years in department, which excludes the 12-month probationary period. So this just opens it up for everyone that they can promote after their 12-month probationary period. And then in addition to that, we made a small change to the salary portion for lateral entries. Previously, the department head or chief Reynolds had discretion to place candidates up to one level below the maximum step. And so we've changed that for the recommendation up to the maximum step.
Chief, I'll put you on the spot real quick. Do you know off the top of your head how many lateral transfers we've been able to hire in the last year or two?
Two.
One thing that TPA shared with us during that there's a huge benefit to having a lateral transfer come over to the department with this previous experience. So you'll see that throughout that we're trying to make that a little bit more appealing to come onto the Temple Police Department from another agency.
Another agency outside the city.
Right.
In other words, another police department in
Mhm.
essence.
Yes, yes.
And
They'll have their
officer-
TPOL certification, typically, and there's a lot of benefits to that. They won't have to go through the
Sure.
academy.
They're ready to hit the street sooner, they go through our field training program, but they don't have to, go through all the steps that a brand new officer, they come with experience and training. And without meet and confer, this really isn't an option. So this is I think this article is a good example of how we've been able to use the meet and confer process to work in collaboration with TPA to help bridge the gap and help do all the little things. I'll put all of the arrows in our quiver to try to hire and fill our gaps in officers.
Article 10 is new police officer hiring. Previously, this was actually titled multiple new eligibility tests lists, but we decided to change that because we added some things to it and it just wasn't really relative. So now we're calling this article the new police officer hiring. So with this, we raised the maximum age of new officers to 56 years of age. That is consistent with what we adopted last time with the Meedenberg agreement for lateral transfers and rehires. So that opens it up again for recruitment purposes to more officers that can come in. Then we also revised the procedures quite a bit. We included some additional steps for posting the eligibility list, looking at screening candidates for disqualification and doing background checks and medical and psychological evaluations, interviews, just looking at that overall process where then the department head would approve the list of candidates to be hired and notify the civil service director. The civil service director we also have added to help a little bit with the entrance exam. And administering that. So we've changed that to where the civil service director can administer the exam to candidates with a predetermined set of conditions. They could do this in multiple locations on multiple dates. This could be either online or online or in person, and that's completely different than what we've done previously. It's all been in the city of Temple, and it has been at a location in person. So hopefully this will really open it up for recruitment purposes that provides more flexibility for testing. Article 11. So the individual vehicle.
Before you go into that one, I'll say on Article 10, I think this is another, maybe one of the biggest benefits that we've changed this year. So, if you think about someone who might be interested in being a police officer who may live out of state or even somewhere else within the state, the burden of having to drive, to Temple to test at a certain point in time, when there's a lot of opportunities everywhere, is, something that a lot may choose not to do. So with this, again, we can have a competitive edge because our association has agreed to this component in our meet and confer agreement. So we can have tests going on throughout the state, online, at multiple different places, so that we just have that much more ability to help get folks that are qualified and good candidates for our department. So I think this is another great example of a great partnership between the city administration and the TPA to meet a mutual goal.
Aaron, what was the previous max age? Was it 35?
It was 45.
45?
I still like the career.
I know, I got it.
36 miles a year.
Okay, maybe that's the one.
36 by what you were thinking. Have the ability to, I don't know.
Go to jointemplepd.com and register.
You have to be able to climb those stairs without huffing and puffing.
I guess I'm not.
It's a tough one. Article 11 is our individual vehicle assignment program. This is something that y'all are familiar with. We've brought this to you a few times. They say in order to be a Temple police officer, you are required to live within 45 minutes from the police department headquarters. That is a requirement just to be a police officer. So the TPA, again, it was a recruitment incentive. They were hoping to that this would be a great recruitment incentive for officers that may live within that 45-minute boundary. The incentive that they could take home a vehicle if they were maybe living farther away and So they recommended that we increase the geographical limitation to what we currently have at 10 miles outside of the city limits to no more than 45 minutes from the headquarters. Currently, they pay $35 per pay period unless they are designated as on-call response. They're part of a special unit. And there's no payment. And then officers that reside within the city limits that can take home a vehicle don't pay anything. It's only those who live half a mile or more outside the city limits up to 10 miles. So there was a lot of discussion on this and the benefits of it. So we went through, and I have to say again, Melissa Probilski and Jess Martin, they did so much work and so many different calculations. And what they brought us, one of those was they looked at the actual annual cost of more than 1 mile. So they based that calculation mileage off of each officer that's currently eligible to take home a vehicle and the current IRS mileage rate. And so they calculated that to cost about $80,154.
To do what?
For every, like all the current officers, if they live outside the city limits, are eligible to take home a vehicle where they currently live now, our cost would be $80,000.
I got it. Okay.
So what we recommended was increasing the fee from $35 to $50 per pay period. That equates to an additional amount to the city around $50,000. So to help us a little bit with the additional costs of the $30,000, what they recommended was that they would eliminate the standby pay. Right now, that is in the meeting and confer agreement at $15 a day. So they recommended completely eliminating that, and we spend about $30,000 on that per year. So with the current officers that we have right now and where they live, hopefully there will not be a cost increase if we implement this. But things change as you recruit more officers so I don't want to guarantee that will always be the case. People could move. But looking at this, that was a part of our negotiation. So what we're recommending to you all, just again, is to increase it to no more than 45 minutes from the Temple PD headquarters and increasing that fee to $50 per pay period.
So they pay 50 or they live 2 miles or 45.
That's right. It will be all the same.
And the pay period is that twice a month or how does?
There's 26 pay periods in a year.
Generally twice a month, yeah, but there's 2 extra.
Yep.
Fortnightly. I'm trying to bring that in. And nobody
say that.
Nobody's adopting it.
Bye.
But bi-weekly could mean twice a week or every other week. That's why fortnightly is more precise, but nobody wants to. Yes.
Now I recall that. Very English. Read histories fortnightly in every one.
So that will be a recommendation for you all to increase that fee per pay period as well as the geographical limitation, and then to also eliminate standby pay. So just moving on, a meet and confer agreement is binding and enforceable when that agreement is ratified. So the city council must ratify that agreement by a majority vote. Then the recognized police officers association would need to ratify the agreement by having a secret ballot election, which they did have. They conducted that between August 30th through September 1st. A total of 112 police officers. I know that's 2 days. They did it very quickly. 112 police officers voted yes to the ratification and 2 voted no. It also included 22 that did not vote. And according to our agreement, that the 22 that did not vote counts as a no vote, but it still passes given the total amount. Some other things that are coming forward for you all. So like I said, we'll be asking you all to ratify by resolution the meet and confer agreement at your next council meeting in September. And then we also have 2 readings that relate to the special assignment pay. So that TCOL certification pay and incentive pay that I talked about with Article 4, those were adopted by ordinance. So we'll need to have 2 readings to go with that. And so That has been submitted and that will be at your upcoming agendas as well. And that is the end of my presentation, but if I could just say something that I think I've been remiss to say. So I've been doing this since 2018, and I started working for the city, and it's just been such a great process. I have to say, the communication and the collaboration that exists between the police association and city administration has been outstanding. They have been absolutely wonderful to work with, really bring a lot of important needs and matters to us, and are very objective and well thought out, and just been wonderful to work with this institution.
Meet and Confer was adopted 18.
I think
17?
first done in 15.
Okay.
That was when Bryn was the lead negotiator.
Yeah.
She started.
Well, whenever we adopted it back then, there was a lot of concern about this being a police union. Right? And it was somehow there was going to be a barrier between the officers and city management. And Chief, chime in if you need to, but I think it's been, I think just the name, meet and confer, right? Let's meet and have a conversation. And that it appears that that's how it's been, and it's worked well. And the city has, quote unquote, given up some things, but so have the officers. And I think just the fact that everyone's willing to come to the table, there's open dialogue, and management, right, has set it up to be that way, and the officers take it that way. I think it's been a true testament to the good things that work in Temple. So
I think it is done the opposite of create a barrier.
I agree.
It,
I agree.
it has facilitated. I couldn't even put it on a scale, the difference in the relationship between management and officers from 2015 to now.
Yeah, I agree. There were a lot of really I would say the morale was not good at the police department around a lot of issues, and I think that at that time, and I'm just speaking for myself, that I think that the relationship was poor enough that I think they were open to unionizing.
Well, I just say, based on just all the conversations I've had with them and the relationships that I've made through this, which has been amazing, is that they truly appreciate the city council so much, as well as city administration. And a huge thank you to our police chief. He has been phenomenal, and they just absolutely adore working with him.
That's good. And what a blessing that we made those changes then with the issues with planning officers now, right? Temple could be in a much worse spot had we not had a good relationship. So, very good. Do you have anything to say around any of that?
No, you made a good hire.
Have a talk, Bill.
We'll tell you, while it's rare for, it's not this way around the United States, with police associations, administration, managers. I can't speak to 2015, but the relationship is much, much different in 2023 than it even was in 2020. There's trust, there's relationships, and really, really good communication. And on behalf of the men and women of the Temple, y'all know how much we do appreciate it. That's not just words. I still wait for all my thank you cards. That's not in our culture. They're not going to do that on the general purpose, but they are very, very grateful for everything you have done, really, since 2020 and moving us forward in 2023. So Aaron's done a great job. The team's done a great job. We certainly appreciate it all.
Great. Good.
Chief, I had a police officer stop me in the Lowe's parking lot the other day. I didn't notice officer at all. And I thought, oh, here we go. What did I do wrong? First thought. And he said exactly what you just said. And I could barely close my mouth. I was so flabbergasted. And then we had a nice conversation, and you just think about what's going on around the country and look at the difference of the nightly news and where we are with the ability to communicate with our officers. It's amazing.
Tell them all the time, if they run into you, to thank you.
And this
I'm
person
glad he
did.
did.
He
I'm
was
glad he
so nice.
Great.
And he didn't run into me though.
You ran into.
We've been known to do that.
Yeah, no collision.
Very good. All right, moving on, item 3 is to receive a presentation regarding the Las Cruces Neighborhood Planning District.
Hi, me again. So this is, what our neighborhood planning district that we have before y'all today. We have several MPD team members here. So let me introduce Christina, Kelly, Brian, there's Nancy and Belinda. So we have a lot of team members here, but I have to say that everyone in this room is involved because we meet with the departments, throughout the process, get a lot of feedback, and, it's crucial. Especially when we are recommending streets, improvements, sidewalks and parks and things like that. We need to have that input. So, and I want to say something just really quick about Belinda Garcia. I haven't noted her before. She's the one that brings you all these things. This is not just, she is absolutely wonderful. She is our neighborhood navigator and she has taken this on full force. She has been absolutely amazing and has just brought us to a completely new level with our neighborhood planning efforts and working with the team. So big thanks to Belinda and all she does. So start out with our purpose and our mission like we always do, but I'll note where you see Las Cruces. So you see Las Cruces there between the Midtown and the Crestview neighborhoods. It's also directly between T-Med and the downtown district. So you can see that here, very close to several different aspects within the overall Temple area, several different neighborhoods downtown. Very cute area with surrounded by, you have, of course, a rail line, which we often see with our neighborhoods.
What are those street boundaries?
So I think I'll say it better here.
What?
So Avenue F is to the north. To the east is
Yep, to the
the
north.
rail line. To the south is a combination of MLK and Avenue O. And then to the west is Veterans Memorial Boulevard. You don't have to say this in every one of those videos, and I always have 3 takes because I forget northeast, south, and north. But so you can see how many neighborhoods surround this, and then how many key corridors. You have Main Street, MLK Junior Drive, Avenue H, Avenue M. A lot of corridors that we've planned in other neighborhoods that are going through here. So the public engagement process is still very much engaging through there, and Belinda's been a huge help to that. So we still do the neighborhood surveys and get a lot of information. She identifies several stakeholders that are included in our focus groups. We have our external planning team that we meet with throughout the process. We do our MPD News edition, which we had a really fun one, a telenovela theme this time around. It was a lot of fun. So if you'd like to watch the video, I know it is online. And then we meet with several different boards to review this before taking it to you all, such as our Historic Preservation Board, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Neighborhood Organization Advisory. So I did remember the song this time, and Kelly's gonna play that for you all.
Oh, you bet. Sorry.
It is loud. Sorry.
South of downtown Temple is a neighborhood. That neighborhood is great. Got a whole lot of people that are living there. You should visit it, don't wait. There are restaurants and stores waiting there. I've seen the prices, they seem to be fair. Probably got some places that'll fix your hair. So Viva Las Cruces, Viva Las Cruces. How I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. 'Cause even if there were 40 more, I couldn't stay away. We're looking at the streets and sidewalks as well, talking to the neighbors, and I'll tell you they're swell. Maybe plan a park, you know what the Viva Las Cruces, Viva Las Cruces, Viva, Viva Las Cruces.
Craig Brothers.
Craig Brothers. They have fired me. I'm no longer the songwriter, and I think they're doing a wonderful job. I have
So
to
this
say.
was the Craig brothers.
Yes, yes. Buford
Excellent,
singing.
very good.
Mhm.
Buford's doing the singing. Good for Buford.
He's
very
an amazing singer. I had no idea. He said, Aaron, I told you I played the guitar. I said, well, that doesn't mean you're a good singer. So now we enlist him every time.
Good,
been so
very
great.
good. So who wrote it? They did?
Mhm.
Oh, excellent.
I'm just gonna play it. So, you may have been wondering throughout this, where did Las Cruces come from? We had it as silo district previously. That's correct. But through our engagement process, we heard back from a lot of the residents that said that they didn't really identify this neighborhood with the silo district. The silos aren't located within this neighborhood. So we worked together as a team, say mostly Belinda did a lot of work on this and sent out a survey to the neighborhood residents of a new name that was more meaningful to them for their neighborhood. And Las Cruces was one of the options. How that was come up with, it's Spanish for the crosses. So they, and really the main reason looking at that is that, you know, you have a large Hispanic population within this neighborhood. We saw that throughout there. Many Hispanic owned businesses, Our Lady of the Guadalupe Catholic Church, who was just wonderful during this process, let us host several different things there. So that's a major reason for that, but also we have many crosses within this neighborhood. They're represented by railroad junctions, intersections of those heavily traveled streets that connect to many different districts. So that's really where we came up with this. And so I think the neighborhood let us know, and that's another part of the process is that. So that's how we came up with Las Cruces. So what we do is just moving forward, we look at all the sidewalks within the neighborhood. So we range from very good to very poor. So you can see that there are varying types of sidewalks in here, mostly varying anywhere from good to very poor. And then we look at our opportunities and constraints. What we found is that there are a lot of infill vacant lots. This provides a lot of opportunities for more housing in this area. We saw this undeveloped area down there that could serve as a employment center, really looking at Main Street and the connectivity to other areas and how we could improve that, as well as a lot of pedestrian improvements. These are your MTP classifications. So you go through and look at all of the roads within the area and classify them as major, minor arterial, community collector, neighborhood collector. And then also we always identify a pedestrian connector, which is shown in red. So here is the first one, Avenue H. So you can see here that this is a wide roadway recommending a street with 4 lanes with a planning buffer and a side path on one side and a sidewalk on another. You have a lot of traffic flow in this area. And so I want to make sure as we're looking at this, we will look at enhanced pedestrian intersections. And then MLK Drive, we have 2 different options here depending upon the amount of right of way. So one is shown here with 80 feet of right of way with 4 travel lanes, and then the side path and sidewalk with 56 feet of right of way, still 4 travel lanes, but a little bit narrower of a sidewalk.
So how do we get to one or the other, A or B?
So like here there's a lot of existing, I think, right of way that's 80 feet, but then there's more narrow right of way. So we would still have to extend.
Oh, okay.
And then you can see where we're recommending that. So A, up above on the map on the side, you can see the north-south portion. That is the area that we're recommending for the 80 feet of right of way. And then the B section there is what we're recommending with the 56. And then moving on to Main Street, this is one that I talked about a little bit, kind of creating a road diet in this area. So we have opportunities where we could have both angled and parallel parking, as well as some improved landscaping and planting areas and sidewalks. So you can see there that's a large sidewalk area would provide an opportunity to have some seating, planting, lighting, furniture, things like that out there. Then we have the Main Street lane reduction here. So what we could do is reduce it to 2 travel lanes with parallel parking on both sides, and then a sidewalk in addition to that. So really just focusing on pedestrian environment here, and making sure where there are a lot of mature trees, we meander those sidewalks. And the Avenue G corridor, recommending that, again, there's an A and B component that you can see. And so what we want to do, this Avenue G goes through the Midtown neighborhood. So these recommendations are very similar to what you see with the Midtown neighborhood, where the streets really engage there with the sidewalks and the pedestrian environment. So still having some sidewalks on both sides, preserving those trees and providing the street furnishings. And then the pedestrian connector that I mentioned earlier, again, an A and a B option you can see up on the map earlier above. So basically, those are designated largely on that pedestrian experience. And so they're very important routes to get residents from main corridors to other areas, other neighborhood destinations. So it's making some recommendations on sidewalks, increased plantings to make sure they feel safe between the roadway and the sidewalk. And the Avenue H and MLK intersection is a really important intersection. We feel like it's a gateway intersection for the neighborhood as well. There are no sidewalks on most of Avenue H within the neighborhood. There is some plans for MLK Drive for a side path, but really want to make sure that this is a nice, safe crossing with pedestrian elements, and then some improvements to that intersection. We did find too that speeding was a major concern from the neighborhood, and so hopefully that could help with that as well. Adaptive reuse, we saw an opportunity with the Main Street corridor to have some of that. So you have the northern part of the corridor is really more of your traditional commercial mix. But you have many vacant and depressed properties along the corridor. And so we think really the adaptive reuse of those homes would really spark some vitality into this corridor and be respectful of the neighborhood character at the same time. We also have, as I mentioned, a lot of infill opportunities within this with vacant lots. And so we have an exhibit here of a currently vacant lot that could serve as some cottage development. So the use of cottages would be a similar footprint to single family housing, so would be much more compatible with the scale of that. And then we looked at the streets of Avenue M and MLK Drive. You can see this is probably a good example up here, how it goes to each other. It's pretty unsafe, has an odd angle to it. So some recommendations plan is just kind of making that a little bit better, or even the addition of a roundabout. And then this is where we go through and we identify the different enhancements for our focus map. Neighborhood conservation has been very important as we start our infill standards. So we look at those neighborhood conservation areas. We also identify that employment area where I mentioned earlier that is largely undeveloped, and then the active streets there along First and MLK and Avenue G and H. Neighborhood conservation is important. You have a lot of existing homes within this neighborhood, as well as other types of developments. So we have some recommendations on how we can preserve that housing. This is the one thing that we notice as we go through. So Carver Park is located within this neighborhood, but the neighborhood really lacks a sizable park space. So this park, this would be a new park that doesn't currently exist. It would provide the whole neighborhood with some additional recreation opportunities. And right now, this was an area that was identified by the residents as a spot that is problemsome with a lot of illegal dumping that occurs there. And so we think bringing it back to life with the park and some mixed use nearby would be a wonderful opportunity here.
Is that, so the recommendation is at Avenue H and 10th.
Yes.
And who owns this land?
I'm not exactly sure.
The city owns a good portion of
We do in a good portion, and then I think we purchased a lot recently too, right?
And a New Day Fellowship.
So this could be
Oh, okay.
city-owned and TRC could get involved and Mr. Parks is
Yeah.
right here.
We decided to have it be, the lot that we purchased, the city, because it would be a public park. But if we need to acquire, I think Kelly mentioned a New Day Fellowship owns another portion of the property as well. So we'll be looking at that. So this is another area that we have some recommendations on some residential growth. So, you know, really what we'd love to see here is a variety in housing choice for this neighborhood, which is both rental and ownership opportunities. So creating some small lot, detached, single family development, as well as duplexes, townhomes, and apartments really provides that variety and more housing choice for the residents. Another recommendation is a neighborhood center at Main Street and Avenue G. So we think that this is a perfect opportunity for infill and redevelopment of this area. And so you could, I mean, just envision like outdoor dining, merchandising, gathering, have those street fronting buildings. So they're oriented to the street, and then you could have some outdoor seating and then the parking directly on the street. We look to at the intersection of Main Street and Avenue G right here and providing some improvements there with some unique paving to emphasize for the neighborhood, and then the on-street parking, as I mentioned. Then here's just another example of that enhanced intersection and really what that would look like. So you can see the seating there that would enhance that street activation and that pedestrian environment, those furnishings. So then also looking at the architectural character, this is something, I'll have to attribute this to Belinda. She had a great recommendation to really look at this colonial revival architecture that would really fit in with the neighborhood, which I think is a great element of this. This could really create a great destination. So with the addition of housing choice, plus a neighborhood center, you know, with places to work and eat and shop, really improve it. This is the area that I talked about that's undeveloped right now. They could really serve as a business park with this neighborhood. Again, employment opportunities for the neighborhood residents. So it could also help us a little bit with some detention, some drainage needs within this area. So like I said, currently it's undeveloped, and we just think this would be a great opportunity for that type of employment opportunities, such as warehouse, commercial, manufacturing. And then neighborhood identification. So with Las Cruces, the crossing, this is what we've come up with for your neighborhood identification. So you can see a couple examples for street sign toppers, our neighborhood monumentation here. And then with all that, we come up with a list of projects and identify costs for that and action items for the plan. And that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Aaron, 2 weeks ago, I think in last council meeting, the couple that came in and is gonna do a building on First Street.
Oh, yeah.
Is that in the Las Cruces neighborhood or is that in the Midtown?
Is it Midtown?
In town, yeah.
It's too far.
Yeah, the other side of
Okay.
First Street.
Oh, yeah, it's on the edge of the two neighborhoods. Okay.
Really exciting for Midtown, I
Yes,
think.
that was very.
Aaron, what makes a cottage? What's the definition of a cottage?
The cottages are a little bit smaller. Kelly, you'd probably explain this better than I would. Do you want
Yeah,
to
just-
explain cottage development?
Cluster housing, smaller footprint, on a single lot. And then it has access, you know, just like a single access. So you're not looking at like a larger development that impacts the neighborhood. It's really maintaining it to that smaller footprint.
So is it more like several buildings on one lot?
Yeah, so you may have individual buildings all on one lot, like Kelly said, and then like a shared parking
Okay.
area. So a lot of shared outdoor space.
They front onto neighborhood parks too.
That's a good point. I don't know if y'all went to the event that Belinda worked with the team on, but it was amazing. I took my children and it was a fabulous event with a band. She had a really fun photo booth set up, snow cones. It's just the perfect event and a lot of feedback. And saw a lot of people come from the neighborhood. It was exciting. There's some photos of it that y'all can see there.
Great, yeah.
Yeah.
It is exciting.
Got anything for Aaron or the team? Thank y'all for the goodies, as always.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, did you eat all the tacos?
I left a little bit.
Did you? Tacos in there, cooling off. All right, very good. Thank you. Again, that's a fun one. We always appreciate the extra work that goes in. So thank you for that. Next is to receive a presentation regarding proposed changes to the operation of the yard food truck cart will be effective January 1st, and this will be Kevin and Aaron. Maybe just Aaron.
Kevin is going to give you the presentation, but I just wanted to kick it off. So, city administration really asked the Parks Department to look at the food truck park and how that is being operated right now. We've had some issues that have arose on our side of things as far as maintenance and operations go, as well as we've heard some issues expressed by the food truck owners that are at the park right now. So Kevin and I have worked together significantly to come up with some options for you all. And we did have a meeting with the food truck owners, and we also did meet with the Parks Board as well to provide this. We did not ask for a formal recommendation at the Parks Board, but we did get a lot of feedback. And so Kevin's going to share all of that today, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Council, good afternoon. Before I start, that's a good opportunity. My new assistant director, Leah Anderson, is here. She's been here since, she said, the end of July. Time flies, I guess. But anyway, just want to introduce you to her because you'll start seeing her more often in there. So we're ready to go. But Assistant City Manager Smith did mention a little bit about, you've probably seen in the paper on Channel 6 News, some of the concerns that have been down there. What I want to do is first off, thank Leah and her team, colleague Lieferman, Amanda, and Chelsea there on the special event side, and they helped put together a lot of this. And then Kathy, your right-hand person over here, Charlotte, has been phenomenal. And every time we need something, it's amazing the city we live in and work with. So 2020 vision, you see work in progress. What does that mean? Just know that when we started in 2020, we've never been in this business. So we knew it would morph into something as it went along. And back in 16, I had to start trying to recall some of this because you get here, you've been here too long and time just kind of weaves in and out. But 2016, when we started the plaza improvements with, the TISD building and the chamber building, and we used to run down under the 3rd Street Bridge, if some of you remember, like community markets and food truck events. And we knew that that was an important component. And so when we designed the plaza and the MLK Trail, we needed a food truck park, we thought, right? What is that going to look like? We don't know, but we knew that, hey, we wanted, we knew that there was going to be a big push, even a bigger push, to get more people downtown, businesses and just foot traffic. And we're going to come up with that. What are the hours and days that we're going to be open? And that was just, a typical example. And I'll talk more about that later. And then just a kind of a family fun area to come to. There's a grassy area that, could be bands down there. So that was kind of just the thought. We did open in 2020, and the Parks and Recreation Department manages, the maintenance of it, and also the managing the rental space. There are 9 spaces down there. The one that there's a space right here that we do not rent. So there's 9 spaces. We only use 8 of them. That's if we set up a band or something underneath, that's where they would be. It's kind of like a little awning. and then they rent from us on a monthly basis. When we started out, our policies, we met with some people downtown. They kind of gave us feedback on what our rate should be. We also had, when we started, you could rent weekly, monthly, maybe even quarterly. So that tells you we've changed over time. So now it is just a monthly basis. We got rid of the other rental times. So here's kind of a little cartoonish looking that kind of gives you a bird's eye view of kind of how things lay out. And there's the little awning canopy that I was telling you about. And kind of point of reference, Gandy's Barbershop is right up here. So when you rent down there, you get a space. What does it come with? And we did it right. We sat down, we said, we're going to have something there. The other events we had downtown, we always had to bring in generators and other stuff. But that's not what we wanted. That's not the vision we had. So we have wastewater, we have electrical and wastewater outlet or inlet also. 30 by 30 space, the rent is for 300. And of course you put a deposit down. So you probably have seen some of the challenges from the food truck owner side. I think there's definitely challenges from the city side as well. And I'll go over all that, but they do come and go throughout the day. And back in, we had not been open too long. Chief, I don't remember when you came, but it was a previous police chief that was here. We had put up, we'd gotten ready to open, and a lot of officers said, hey, you're gonna have a corridor coming through there, that's your trail. And really, we need to think about security for your events that are down there at the yard, but also just people walking back and forth. And so we did put up a bollard system. And that will come into play in a little bit. But so foot traffic really is not to the level I think anybody would like it to be. Nobody's fault. It's just not there yet. And that also lends to, I don't blame the food truck owners. They're a private business. They need to make money. So they've got to come and go where they can make a living. So when they go, they usually go into, a place that I heard like the Bell County, fairs coming up. Well, they would not be probably at our spot if you can have thousands of people. So they're very fluid. The other thing was, inconsistent days and times. I heard a lot of feedback from people that, hey, I go down there, but they're not open. When are they open? So it's hard for us to, they were wanting us, you guys need to promote us more. I think the pushback from the city was, how do we promote something that's not consistent? So I will give them, once again, it's a private business. You go to their Facebook site, it is very good. It will tell you exactly where they're going to be, but that's how you would have to find out about when food trucks are actually open. The bollard issue, that they're being removed, so they're fluid. So if the bollards are down, it's not doing its job. It's there meant as a protection against traffic coming through to deter it. So when food trucks are coming and going, they were taking the bollards out, leaving them on the ground. And there's a reason for it in a second. So that's a concern for the pedestrians or anybody that's using the event space down there. And also, it's probably been now since this presentation, maybe a month or so ago, actually somebody stepped off into one of the holes where the bollard had been removed. So we've got, another issue going on.
So they're not locked.
They're not locked. They can be locked, but we were to lock them up, then they would not be able to come and go. There is a new procedure that has helped to, remedy some of that, but it's not a long-term sustainable thing we can do. But they are lockable. So they're supposed to put them back in when they take them out, but they just haven't been doing it, and they had not done it. The reason, they're heavy. And when I heard about it, because they're meant to stop traffic from coming through, right? So I actually had our parts guys go weigh that thing. And we know what the manufacturer's label said, but so 65 pounds is what we think they are. Now throw on, it's a black pole, it's slick, and now throw it in the summer and grab that. It is very, very hot. Just to let you know, at our main office, our doors face the west side. and that's just a small handle. We actually, put some padding on it, because you touch it, it'll actually burn. Now you're talking about grabbing a 65-pound object, trying to lift it out. So that's not safe for the food truck owners having to remove and try to put back in. So I understand why they're not doing it. So on July 28th, we implemented a new procedure. And we know it's not 100% because bollards are still being taken out and left. But city staff opens it up from 8:30. They go back in 10. They put the bollards back in. And we've asked, and then at 6:30 to 8, we've asked, hey, if you know you're going to be out, if you could leave during those times and come back, that would help. Well, not everybody, whatever event they're having, it's not always meets within those times. So they do take them out, and our staff's still finding them down on the ground. You've probably heard more about the last comment. There's a section here, the vandalism. We have break-ins. We've had people stick water hoses in the truck, let them run. And the vendors have requested security cameras and lighting down there. Unless it's actively monitored, it may not catch. I'm not sure. Does it help? No doubt it probably would help. But I'll give an example at one of my meetings is that at Lions Junction, we have camera system. We have kids jumping. They look at the cameras, but they're wearing a mask. And so we have no idea who they are. Now, does it help? Well, no doubt it would help some, but it's not 100% that you're going to stop the vandalism stuff from happening down there. So what's the reality in 2023? I think we all agree, even the food truck owners, the traffic's not there. The ideal thing would be, if I'm a true food truck owner, is if I can make a living down there, never move my trailer, that's the best. That's a win, right? Because I don't have to transport everything. But that's not happening yet. And then, of course, they're open on inconsistent days and hours, and they're really parking at the yard as a storage, a cheap storage for $300 a month. You've got a storage place, you've got electricity, you've got potable water, you've got the waste of gray water. And so that's kind of going on. So Assistant City Manager Smith did say, can you guys come up with a recommendation? And we came back on a recommendation.
Sorry.
You're all good. If you don't start throwing them. She's heard this presentation before, so maybe she's getting tired of it. I'm
No,
sure.
no. I'm just playing and making a mistake.
Okay, so the recommendations, and I have a slide at the end, but because we should get asked by a Parks and Rec board member, is what all have you done to try to help with this situation? And we actually contacted, I believe, in my slide in a second, 7 cities that have food truck event type stuff there, and 2 private ones. And there's only one that was operating like we are, and they changed and went to event only. All other cities they do a permit and they issue it to somebody to go, park somewhere, or they do event only. And then the 2 private ones, we just contacted. One was the Route 77 in Waco, and then there's a Houston food truck park. So that's what has made us think, okay, how's other cities operating? And we're an unusual bird. You don't find cities actually operating a food truck park. Not saying that we can't. And I just want to make sure that I don't forget at the end, whatever recommendation that we come forward with, and maybe in 2025, there's going to be a slide that says still a work in progress, because whatever we come up with doesn't mean it has to stay that way, right? Because we're going to continue to grow. Downtown is going to get busier and busier. So this will give us time to look at a lot of things. But what we're recommending is to go to an event-only basis. That means that could be the city, or it could be a private individual renting the space and holding an event. The benefit of that is, when the event's going to take place, the start, the end time, the vandalism, they would not be overnight unless they were running a multi-day event. And if they do, just kind of like what we do for the Bloomin', we hire private security, and all they do is just watch the area. So if somebody wanted to rent overnight, and if they were worried, they could hire a private security company just to watch the food trucks. And then it eliminates right now somebody having to pick up the bollards, put the bollards back in, or it's not happening. Somebody stepping off in the hole. And, I said, we've got a new procedures in July 28th. That's till, recommended January 1st. That's a quarter, that's 40 months for Parks and Transform Temple. Should, if, Brewster's not here, I would have reminded, I've been seeing his face and I would have thanked him. So Parks guys and Transform Temple are the ones that are pulling those ballers, putting them back in. But that just means that takes away from other duties that we could be doing. But it's important that we work through this. And then, so the effective date, what we're recommending is January 1st, 2024, to waive the rent for September to December. We're thinking that does a couple of things. It gives them time to go find a location to be parked at, if they've got the gray water. Also gives us time to work on our rental policy. What do we want to charge before we get kicked back off? So we did have a meeting. Because I do believe that we wanted to hear from everybody's point of view. So we wanted to hear from the food truck owners, so they were invited. We want to hear from our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. We had that meeting, and then today, just any feedback that you guys have, I'd like to hear that before making the final recommendation. And you'll see the 3 attendees back on the 24th. Probably the first thing that came out was, hey, the chapter 14, we cannot park our food truck at our house in the driveway or on the street. So that was a concern. And then one individual said, hey, I tried to make a go of it 4 days a week. I was down to about $85 in my bank account. So I understand. That's why I said, and nobody's blaming them for leaving and having to go back and forth. You've got to make a living. And then, so some of the comments, the remaining ones is, can you remain some bollards and put a gate up? And so initially, I've got to take all of these considerations in. That one becomes, there is a vision for down there. And I would have to check with our engineer or even city engineers. I would suspect that anytime you put a gate with hinges, there's no way it can be as safe as bollards, one solid object in the road. But I'm a park and rec dude, so somebody could tell me the other one, but I think that's correct. The comment was made, hey, there are camera systems out there that could alert you when there's motion going on down there. That's true. The other thing that could also pick up is just people walking by. Maybe they're not there to vandalize, and so I'm just walking through the park. Will it pick up on animals there? Possibly. So that could be some problematic trying to do that. One thing that did come out is one of the comments was, hey, directional signage is lacking. If you don't know where it is, there's really nothing that gets us here, the people here. And Assistant City Manager Smith did bring up that, hey, the city is working on a signage master plan, and that would be addressed, but that was a good comment. And same thing about not feeling safe with the homeless situation. And once again, Ms. Smith addressed and told about the plan the city has trying to address that issue. So that's good. She talked about that. Permanent restrooms. And, it's a long time ago when we started building this, but I heard that people said, hey, Kevin, you're the one that said you don't need restrooms down there. And I may have, and I don't know if we started out thinking, hey, it's going to be event only. That's why we don't need a restroom. I don't have a clue. I'll take that one. I'm not sure. It is a great comment, though, is somewhere down the road. And I think potentially when we build the new farmers market, community market area, there's going to be restrooms. But so that one could be a Kevin Beaver's goof, and I'll take that one. There is a need for a gray water dump station somewhere. That was a concern. If I happen to take my trailer, where am I going to go? People that were there wasn't sure that there was a place. And then we got asked, hey, what does this event pricing look like? And at that time, and even today, I can't tell you because we haven't come up with our final recommendation, but that gives us time over the next 3 months now to come up with it. We met at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on the 29th. The 2 food trucks attended, and the question or the comment from Lula Mays was, hey, I can find storage for my food trailer in town. What I don't have, I'm not sure about, is my gray water. And so the question came up, can the city, or would the city be willing to let us use the system that's down at the yard, even if we have to pay for it. So that was a comment. I did have staff since the board meeting look up that and plus Mama Llama's concern. We did at least find one or two places that you can go dump your gray water. There's a fee. And we will share that with the food truck owners. And the same thing, Mama Llama said, it's one thing to have a storage, but I'm not sure, do people have 30 and 50 amp breakers, which we do. And staff did find at least one place that would provide that. And then the last thing that remember that was brought up is on that monitoring security system. They believe that they could get enough people to pay for it. The food trucks down there, it would not have to be a burden on the city. The only thing with that still doesn't address the issue of the foot traffic and having them there open on a consistent basis. That would only address the vandalism potentially. So that was shared. And so we did get asked if feasible, could we accept the gray water? And the question that came up is, how big is your tank down there? And I had to go back and ask the engineer, 750 gallon tank. Then they asked, so the food trucks go away. What keeps somebody from going and tapping into the system and dumping the gray water? And so the bollards doesn't necessarily keep them from entering. Had two things. If you remember the vision, it started that with food truck one over here, and then it swung over in by Temple Feed, that street there. That's food truck 8. Somebody could pull up to the road and tap in and dump their gray water. There are some ways that we can make the connection points more secure. It's not foolproof, but you would have to have a wrench and a socket and stuff. So make it more foolproof. But then also the comment came in from staff is still, if you're not supposed to be there, that's trespassing. If you're doing things like that. So we would have to figure out that if the city wanted to go that route. I don't think we want to get into that business. And then one Parks board member said, hey, I don't want this. She said, her statement basically was, hey, I don't know how to say my words. I'm just going to tell you is that this is a bad idea. And she said, I know I go down, I like the food truck area. And that's said, what have you done? That's what led into, how did you come up with what you want to do to go to a bit only? And that's when we shared, hey, we've contacted these cities. We've contacted the city. This is how they operate. We also, let's see that slide or maybe, down at the bottom. So, there's First Friday. So we try to get those events there. Holly and her group does another every quarter, the second Friday, try to get events down there. And then of course the occasional festivals that Blooming that was down, those are down there. So we did that. We contacted the other cities, and the board member was pleased that we at least have done some due diligence in trying to make that work. And then one comment came from a board member is just immediately start mandatory days and times, and when they can't meet it, then they're no longer there. Also, I don't know if that's what we want to do, but we talked about that. And then there's at the tied it all up. 7 cities contacted and 2 private places. So what's the next step? I want to take another look at meeting with the food truck, the Parks Board, and any comments that are here today, and then come up with my final thoughts and begin working on a policy. So, there's nothing that you vote on, but I just like any discussion. We have to answer anything you have. I know if it gets into the legal, dumping and all that. I know Sean was like a dictionary that day, so it was great to have her here, and we've got public works people here. But they're happy to answer any questions. And Member Long was there, and she might have her own thoughts of kind of how the conversation went. But
No, I concur with what
Yeah.
you're saying.
We go downtown a lot, and I've always been disappointed in the lack of them being open. I mean, you see them all shuttered. But mean, if you can get people down there, I know there's. People want them. They definitely want them. It's just too stinking hot right now. Nobody wants to be outside. So hopefully in the fall, we get some cooler weather. But, I mean, I agree. I think it seems to be event only for now.
Can you go back a couple, please?
Tell me when to stop.
Don't forget, we can go back to something or go to something else at a later date.
Yeah.
If.
I think we need to talk over there.
Yeah.
All this. I probably don't know how to work this thing. I don't know. I thought I knew where we were.
Kevin, are there food truck parks in places like Phoenix? Do we know?
Where's not?
Huh?
Oh, we did not check.
I'm just thinking of what Jessica just brought up, the weather, which obviously we're all very aware of, but it's hot here every summer.
So I know we checked with McAllen, El Paso, Edinburgh, Lovett, Waco.
Well, McAllen and El Paso answered my question. I mean, and do they have a lot of traffic in the heat?
So I don't know because they don't run, they just issue the permits.
Permits.
Edinburgh is the one that started off like we did, and they went the other direction. They went event only.
Same as what you're considering.
Yes.
What we typically see, I think Holly, like Kevin mentioned, did a lot of research, and what we found that most food truck parks, if, it's usually privately run. So I think planning has seen some recommendations come forward from private individuals. So what you typically see, and then with the research, if there is city owned, then they do events only.
So theoretically, if it's privately run, you'd have Don would decide to run a food park.
Right.
food-
So he would
Truck
build
park.
it, he would own it, he'd develop it.
But we could also contract out to somebody who was going to run it. Theoretically.
Oh,
I mean, it's a possibility that could happen. So that would be one growth area if we saw growth. Get the problems off of our back and have a contractor that's somebody who wants to run it. for us.
Sure. Rent it out to a single person.
Yeah, who then sublets the spaces and maintains it and deals with the issues of gray water, dumping, et cetera.
And I think a question also was asked of us, and we would have to get our guidelines in place is, so you rent the food truck park and you decide, okay, it's cheap enough, everybody pay me and we're still gonna just stay, we're gonna spend the night. But we would have to put something in place that, okay, if you rent it, it has to be for an event with hours that you're gonna be open. You can't just rent it to, once again.
Oh, turn it into storage.
So we got asked that by Parks Board member. Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember that question.
I think some privately owned truck parks too are usually in bigger cities, and they usually have like on-site management, and they have commissaries attached, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
that's
So-
like my youngest lives in San Antonio, and they have a food truck park. They go, it's called Area 51. And like there's a bar, right? And the person that owns the lot runs the bar. And then they have different food truck booths there, and they have a band and they advertise and they, it's a business. And it appears to me that the current trucks that occupy the park, they want the city to perform a lot of those functions, including security and, all these things that normally a private entity would, or a business would run. They want the city to provide those things, and they want to pay $300 a month. So, I just don't see, to me, it appears that what the city has done now, we're basically a landlord. Right? And now that, it's kind of like a landlord when the sink starts leaking, the landlord's got to go over and fix it, right? So now that, the security's not what they want, also they don't expect the landlord to go fix this stuff for $300 a month. And that's just not viable.
How much more would they pay if we did some more? Would they be willing to pay more if we?
Well, but how much, to me, the question is more, what would it cost to get it up to speed?
A lot.
Yeah, and then what would they have to pay then to make that work? And I don't think that,
And we still don't have enough foot traffic.
we can't even get rid of these tacos.
I would,
Hurry up the meeting, Kim. You're the mayor.
I would think, Mayor, that's a great point. If you made it more expensive, they can't make it now on $300 a month.
Right.
So if you raise it, it's gonna make it even more challenging.
Exactly.
And it's not special, right? If they're sitting down there, from my office, I often come downtown for, so I drive right by there and they're shuttered. And people expect them to be shuttered. And I think that if you begin to drive by there and you notice the food, when they're not normally there, right? So now there's an event, you notice that you're more likely to stop than it just sitting there. And I don't expect them to be open when I drive by. And so that just, to me, just doesn't make sense. That's backwards over there.
And that's not the vision of
No.
2020.
And when you're driving over there, though, there's not usually parking. To Find a parking spot to get there because garage is not open.
That's
When
true.
is that open?
Yes.
When is that open?
Soon.
So what do you need from us on this?
Just anybody that has any comments, feedback, I'm gonna go back and I'll listen to all of it, make sure I take it into consideration, but nothing to vote on or anything. I just want some feedback. And that's what I told the Parks Board, especially the one person that, that disagreed with us, is that I don't expect you guys to rubber stamp things to come through. You add credibility if you disagree with us, you ought to be asking questions. If not, then the board means nothing. And so I really enjoy when people, if they don't agree, that's great. If they ask questions, that's great. I don't take anything personal.
But when I asked from the clicker, this was what I was looking for, that second bullet down, how do we set up the yard with cheap rent? To me, it can stop right there. This is basically, it's cheap storage. And there's not anyone else in town that's going to supply them 30, 50 amp breakers, potable water, a place to dump, all of that for $300 a month. And then they leave to go do business elsewhere after the infrastructure has been set up to do business there. So
So is there any land east that can be designated for food truck parking?
East.
Well, okay, what is it on Main Street? Is it Main Street or?
Yeah, there's that parking lot behind Empire Seed that Extraco owns. Do they maintain that when they leave? When the Extraco's gone?
They sold it at the building.
My problem is that I can never find parking if I'm down there. And then not knowing the hours. So I just keep driving by and not thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Something
Market
that
workforce.
says-
Yeah, and then.
Yeah.
On the easiest way to get there.
The garage is gonna open.
Yeah.
Very soon.
I
And
would
that's
want to
gonna,
pay for garage parking.
you're the council, you can't say that.
I don't think we're giving you any guidance.
No, you are. You're giving me your thoughts, and that's all I need. That's all I'm asking for.
All right.
I know that you said that you were addressing security with cameras. And I think you talked to my team, and the cameras that we have that are not the answer. They have to be manned. You have to be able to zoom in when there's motion. So even motion sensor cameras, they're gonna turn on, but you're not gonna get a face. It's dark, it's far away. If you had someone manning the cameras to zoom in where it needs to be, when it needs to be, then that would be sometimes here, but you have to have somebody man
And then you have to have an officer available to go.
it
Yeah.
to dispatch.
I have a question. Is the desire to bring the yard kind of back to life, to keep the food trucks there, to keep it the way, well, in business? That kind of the hope, the desire, or?
What we're recommending is events only versus all the time right now because of all of the issues that we presented.
I think she's at like the ultimate goal is not for the immediate future, but like the ultimate goal of the yard. Like what's that vision? I think you were pointing back to that 2020 kind of idea. I think it was a different vision then, and you're hoping to get to that one day, but because of these speed bumps, I guess, that we're hitting along the way. These bollards we're running into. We're thinking of another solution that helps us buy some time to get you back to that 2020 vision.
And 2025 vision may be something we're not even thinking about, because, you know, things happen over time and nobody can predict the future, what it's.
It'd be nice if workforce, you know, if those two large buildings there would create some sort of demand over there, and it'd be nice whenever there's more residential living downtown and it's not so stinking hot that you could walk down there and, you know, so, I mean, this might be a little bit before its time. Right? I think maybe later on when there's just more going on down there
Yeah.
day to day.
And if we could also, if, assuming we go to event only at this point, we could then graduate to weekend, event only and Saturdays. And grow from there. Those Friday nights and Saturdays.
Do they get good traffic on first Friday?
I was told staff that, quite a few of the first Fridays, they still leave and go other places. So there may be foot traffic, but not to the level wherever they're going.
On
We're
First
sold.
Fridays, a lot of times they have their own food truck set up next to the.
Yes.
I think
People are
down,
going to the yard and.
I think
It's hard to
all
tell.
of that is they were
Yeah.
going, there's private events like on Fridays
Right.
and Saturdays that pay a lot more and they can make more money. So even if we have a First Friday event, they're
Done.
If there's free rent from September to December, would it be possible to facilitate some kind of, like Tuesday evening special and like Thursday from 11 to 2 and some kind of like sporadic but consistent, things that maybe the food truck vendors can commit to, say, okay, we're gonna be here for the next 3 months at these days, these times. And then maybe, the city could facilitate some kind of, advertisement for them to kind of maybe revamp it until the parking garage opens.
Yeah, I think that we have gotten the feedback we need
I
to kind of have some additional conversation. And just to respect, everybody else, the couple other presentations we have scheduled, we will take all of this in and we'll be back with a finalized policy recommendation.
Very good. Anything else for council before, anything else for Kevin? Very good. Okay. All right, next item is to receive departmental updates from the airport and public works, which includes fleet, solid waste, transportation. The new guy.
The new guy, that's right. And airport starts with an A, so I've got to confirm. Mayor, City Council, thank you all for the time. Sean couldn't be here today. He's at his daughter's wedding and actually officiating it. But I am excited to be here and vicariously present his excitement to you all. For those of you that I haven't had the privilege of meeting yet, my name is Andrew. I'm the new fixed base operations manager for the airport. I'm very excited to be here. So some of our accomplishments with the last little season for us, community outreach is kind of an ironic one, given the most recent presentation, but we're having a monthly food truck event. So it's been one Wednesday of every month. So apologize for that, but we're seeing increased traffic with each time. Thanks to Cache McVay Flying Service, our local flying flight school and maintenance facility on site. They've been offering the aircraft, and this last one we had helicopter rides available to the public for purchase, and it's been a lot of fun. Dream Flights was something that we offered earlier in the year. It's a biplane Stearman open cab aircraft. It's really neat that Dream Flight offered to take 6 veterans. These are World War II and Korean veterans, so great opportunity to honor those that served. Holy Trinity visited on a tour. This, as you'll see, we've also had the Ralph Wilson Youth Center, and we're planning some others for the future. School tours, in my experience and our recent experience at the airport, is a great opportunity to reach out to the community and really grab those young minds and that young excitement into the world of aviation, because there's a lot of opportunity there. The Jerome Miller 75th Anniversary Air Show. Hopefully you guys were able to make it out to that. We have a lot of exciting things planned for the 76th and a great legacy with that air show. We consider it, and Sean would say it was a great success, even despite the weather that we had that time of year. We also attended the Career Day at Rogers Elementary School. Again, just with that sentiment of reaching out to young minds and people that might be interested in a career in aviation. And on that same topic, for the older crowd, we had the city hiring event. Thank you very much to communications and marketing for putting on that great event. We saw a lot of traffic, and I'll have an update in staff and operations, but we actually did hire a candidate through this event. So that was very successful. For hangars and facilities, we are working with Mr. Ross on his small private hangar development. In the meantime, we are needing to connect utilities to that site for him to build. His construction loan is on hold until we can do that. We'll talk a little bit more briefly about that and what's coming in the future. Sean and the team is providing weekly tours. Yes,
How many hangars is Ross building?
just one,
Okay,
but it'll be large enough that it'll not only host its own aircraft, but also it'll be able to bring in other. Based.
you know how many roughly? Half a
It
dozen?
depends on the size of the aircraft,
Sure.
but they're targeting 4 to 6.
Okay, very good.
Small, either single engine or dual engine craft. Maybe some small jets too. So we're providing tours. Sean is to those parties that are interested in building hangars. One thing that we're seeing across the industry, but particularly in Central Texas, is that hangars are becoming a gold standard. Everybody's after them. The wait lists are long at many different airports, which leads back into why we're working with a local property management company, that the possibility of building new T hangars, as well as we'll talk in the future what we're going to do with feasibility study for new hangar development. We are also working with WCNR that is now operating out of the old AMCOM hangars for hangar number 26. They're working on a door expansion project. What this is going to do for resources for our transient customers, particularly those large ones like SpaceX and Water Force One coming in from Niagara, it'll give them opportunity to store their aircraft. Those large aircraft. Water Force One. That's right. If you got a big jet, you got to give it.
Okay, love it.
So, but WCNR is working on expanding those hangar doors so that we can fit the larger aircraft in there and keep them out of that springtime and fall time hail that we can get here in Central Texas. And they've been working with SpaceX closely. That's fantastic for us because we view them as one of our bigger clients out at the airport. The FBO manager was hired. Andrew Hill started on Tuesday, June 20th. And little birdie told me he's very excited to be here and excited for the opportunity. We are still looking for one part-time ARF or aircraft rescue firefighting specialist. However, the one other full-time position that we had open was filled by another part-time individual that we already had on staff. Update to this one, as of Tuesday, we hired our part-time customer service representative. So we are fully staffed for that team. And I can just say that they're fantastic additions to the team. And we're really excited about the customer experience that they're going to provide for those visiting the Temple Executive Air Center and airport at large. On our TxDOT Aviation Airport inspection, we received no discrepancies, which is a huge commendation to Evan Shepard and his quality control work. The only 2 recommendations were some removal of trees and vegetation around the perimeter and repainting some surfaces. Military Department of Defense field contract was awarded to us for $1.75 million per year for the next 4 years. And that's a fantastic contract that we won. We see a lot of military traffic, as we'll go over in some of our KPIs. We are beginning the testing, have begun for the last month and are continuing on a 2-month trial period with 1200 Aero, which is a new aircraft tracking software. The goal behind this is it's a much more comprehensive way of tracking not only how many aircraft are operating in and out, but who are their owners, their operators, who's scheduling and dispatching them in and out of the airport. And then we'd like to take that data and overlay it with our fuel sales to just kind of make for a more robust performance indication of the airport. We met this morning for a construction meeting on the FBO terminal, took a walk through. It's looking fantastic. The pending grand opening is November 1st. We'd love to have everybody out there. You guys are all invited to see that facility. We're really proud of it and things are coming along well. Emerson and their subcontractors are doing a great job and they're working hard, cranking away, even in the heat. So hopefully get some relief for them next week. Corporate hangar phase 4 is underway, and the T hangar ramp rehab, we do have just under a $600,000 grant. allotted for that. That is, they're beginning the design phase for that ramp rehab project, and then taxiway D realignment, the design phase has begun as well, which we received just under a 2 million. Coming forward, again, we are going to continue with our last Wednesday of the month, having the food truck out, just because we've seen remarkable growth and people from the community coming out and enjoying those airplane rides. One of the people we'd like to see enjoy an airplane ride is Santa Claus, maybe in December. We bounced around some ideas about having him fly in. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be with reindeer and a sleigh, which I'm fine with. He doesn't like that feel for that thing anyways. We'd think about having him come in on a helicopter, but anyways, we're just bouncing around with that fun idea that those food trucks will continue through October. We're beginning the air show planning. I personally, as an aside, am very excited to work on this event with the airport staff. I think it was planning wise great last year. Again, weather governed some of the outcome, but everything was in place, and it is bound to be an even better event this upcoming year. With our fire truck that we'll receive in the new fiscal year, we're going to participate in the city's Transportation Day at the Railroad Heritage Museum, as well as the Christmas parade. Love to have that showcased for the city to see. And then at the end of this month, we'll be hosting a homeschool field trip, which again lends itself to our sentiment of reaching out to the local school communities. We see a lot of interest as word spreads that opportunity exists for those students to come out and see what's going on at the airfield. We hope that as it spreads, we can begin work with Temple ISD as well as Belton ISD and their vocational programs. Yes, ma'am.
Can I interrupt on the,
Absolutely.
community outreach? I've participated with Aaron and Brand in the possibility, and I just, in case it hasn't been passed on to you, we all were talking about an Easter egg drop.
From an airplane. Per the FAA regs, it is legal as long as.
With, Easter bunny at the controls.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
So,
Who's gonna dress up as the KBFS radar? You know?
you just, pass it on to Sean and think about it.
All right.
As long as Aaron and Brenda are still on.
I'm all
Sure.
on board.
Oh, yeah.
I missed a Santa visit to, there's a song. Have you guys ever heard the Santa's Coming in a Whirlybird song? We have a whole theme.
Yeah. It could also be an up and down.
And you've heard the kids sing it.
Yes, it's nice. We can
Yep.
have a seasonal holiday visit.
Yep. And there's a tenant on the airfield that shares our sentiment about community outreach with Last Shadow. They do the helicopter hog hunting, and Mr. Potts is great. I'm sure he'd be willing to, I don't know about dress up as the Easter bunny, but
We may be able to
we'll
convince.
see.
I think Buford cheap meetings.
That would be dangerous.
But a cigarette sticking out.
We know we can get somebody
We
to
can
ride
find
with
somebody.
Kyle.
Yes, are you volunteering?
Sure.
Okay, we'll tackle that. Yeah, lots of great ideas, and aviation's a fun world we want to share with the community. And these are cool ways to, within the holiday season, do that. As I mentioned prior, the new FBO grand opening is scheduled for the 1st, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We'd love to have you guys out there. The ramp failure repair, where that ramp failure is part of the corporate hangar development phase 4. It is underway in repairing where that ramp failed, as well as bringing utilities to future private hangar areas. That goes back to Mr. Ross's development as well, but also piggybacking into other developments because, like I mentioned, Sean's getting several inquiries about building hangars on the airfield. KPA is going to come in and do a analysis on the old FBO space at the Elmer Reed Aviation Terminal and kind of give us an assessment of what that space could be used for. We'd love to see several different things occupy that space, be that a restaurant or a flight school. There's opportunities are endless, and we've been approached by a few that have interest in that, but KPA is going to come in and do an analysis on what that space can be well used for. If not that, then perhaps leveling it and building a large corporate hangar. Airport Business Solutions has been hired to do a T-hangar feasibility study. Again, lends itself back to the high demand that we're seeing for hangar space in our area. They're going to come in and give us a good market analysis as to what we might be charging and what the timeline for ROI on building hangars might be.
We also hear that question a lot from our airport advisory board, so we want to have some good data to provide them. And you all, as we make the decision of what investment, if any, we need to make there.
Our staff is preparing for the opening of the new FBO. We've got some old paperwork and some old furniture that we are consolidating so that we take what we need for operations into the new FBO, and we plan to be moved in prior to the grand opening so that we can kind of run operations and give it a test run, because we do have that fancy new aircraft awning, which adds a whole new element to flight line operations. We will hopefully complete the hiring of a part-time aircraft rescue firefighting specialist. And then, as I mentioned, the one part-time CSR has been hired. We did switch from the NATA, or National Aviation Transportation Associations. It's no wonder they call it NATA. We just switched from their training program over to AvFuels. It's a lot more cost effective and catered to us as an AvFuel provider. I mentioned the FBO grand opening. We plan to complete corporate hangar phase 4, and then those other 2 projects, the ramp rehab, contractor bidding will begin, and the taxiway D realignment design phase will continue through the beginning of fiscal year 24. Performance indicators. This is one area that you might see change as we test the new aircraft tracking software. Right now, we utilize FlightAware to measure our operations at the airfield, but as I mentioned, 1200 Aero is a much more robust program that's actually tracking real-time data from the aircraft, including breaking it down to aircraft size, as well as landings against takeoffs, against overflights, against go-arounds. So we'll get a lot more comprehensive information should we choose to continue with 1200 Aero beyond the trial period. Obviously, they'll need to report back to the COVID years. I experienced the same thing in Waco. Operations dropped down significantly, but we're pleased to see that things are coming back up to not only where they were in 22, but with increase in traffic in 23. Jet fuel sales, you'll notice a larger spike in July. We attribute that to the operations out of Port Cavazos. That time of year is pretty busy for them. And as I mentioned, we get a lot of military traffic into our airfield. So we're glad to win that DoD contract again for the $1.75 million over the next 4 years.
Has that begun?
It has.
It has.
Yes, we rolled right
So
into
that's
it.
reflected.
It is,
Okay.
yes, yeah. So just as soon as the prior DoD contract expired, we rolled into the next one, so. Again, this is information that we'd like to overlay with our new aircraft tracking software to make sure that those aircraft that are using our airfield are actually stopping in and spending their money with us.
Do you have any idea the financial impact of the military aircraft in and out? Do you have any idea what they're spending?
Yeah, we do. I could pull that information for you.
I got a complaint this week from someone that lives out there.
About operations in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why'd you buy that house?
Yeah, that's the age-old battle here.
Right.
One of the cool things about the tracking software is we can actually pinpoint noise complaints. So if we do hear of an aircraft that's flying too low, those military guys happen to fly pretty low near the airfield. But if it's somewhere else in the city, we can actually pinpoint and replay where that aircraft was at that time, pull owner operator, and make a recommendation what it applies to our residents.
Tim, how long had the person owned the house?
3 years.
Oh, for
2020.
goodness sake. So not,
Yeah, no.
yeah.
It's one of those new houses, you know, out there that's being built between Airport Road and
Tennis courts.
in
Yeah.
2017. Yeah.
This
They didn't
kind
say
of
the
speaks
airport.
to it a little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
It doesn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
dollars, but it shows that 20% of the total gallon come from our military customers, so it's fairly significant.
Yes, and our in-the-wing rates for our military contract are great as I've compared them with our AvFuel provider and others in the area that have the military contract. Our prices are comparable, but because we pay a lower cost for the fuel up front, our in-the-wing rate or our profit margin is better for that military traffic, which I'm pleased to say. One of the areas that we'd like to see some growth in is the transient customers. I'm working closely again with AvFuel and other industry advertisers to get the news out. The Temple Executive Air Center is open. We've updated our applications. And they can pull information about where aircraft are coming from, headed to, and we can make targeted campaigns to market for those owners and operators in those areas.
Do you have any information on medical flights?
Which information are you?
Anything, just how many are coming in, going out?
Yeah, so one of the things that
Whatever.
surprised me when I came here is just the volume of medical traffic that we do see. A
Okay.
lot of it is split between organ transplant. So when somebody at the local hospital makes a donation, to put it politely, they'll actually bring several aircraft to the area.
Really,
And each one will have their own medical team.
picking up an organ and taking it.
Yep, in an igloo cooler.
Right, no,
It's an interesting operation,
Yeah.
but well, it is an
Some get
unfortunate
flown in,
situation.
right?
Pardon me?
On the other side of that, some organs get flown in,
Yes.
obviously.
Yep, in or out. That's one of the things that's handed off at our airport. And-
What about actual patients? What about,
I have not yet
people?
seen that here, but I know that that's something that happens frequently. It's an operation that I'm familiar with in Waco and I've heard from other airport staff that it's a regular occurrence. Which is why we're very pleased to have that aircraft awning. That's gonna go a long way in keeping those patients that might be taking a while to load onto the aircraft out of the sun.
that's why I asked the question.
These are our avgas sails, our 100 low lead, so our small piston aircraft. You see a steady incline as this year has gone on. Some of the dips are just reflective of those time of years where weather might not be as conducive to the smaller aircraft traffic, but we're consistently seeing growth and a good split between our self-serve and full service fuel. So of our base customers, several of them utilize the self-serve as well as transients. But then our full service customers, that's a good number to see because we do make a little bit more money on those full service fuelings. And these are our total combined fuel. Again, hopefully down the road, we'll be able to overlay that with our operation numbers, seeing a big spike in July from Fort Cavazos and the other military operations. T hangars, all 73 of ours are full, but we're leaving one empty for transient customers. The idea behind that is that we will be able to capture some additional income as well as provide the service to those transient piston aircraft in those difficult times of year where the weather is bad. We're seeing a lot of success with this. People are proud of their toys and they're glad that we have hangar space available for them when we do. But we do have 73 on the waiting list right now.
Andrew, at our leadership team meeting last week, Sean reported that it costs $50 a night for the overnight stay, and you've made $275. And every single one of us wanted to understand how you got to 275 and then charge $50 a night. We asked you.
No, I don't know where he got
He
that.
sent out an email. He said it was a package, so they charged him half.
That was questioned. Why didn't you charge him the whole day?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, when they did.
comments.
No,
He
that
wasn't
actually, that was
pranking
Buford.
Yeah,
I've
that was
just been
Buford.
mistaken for Buford.
Yeah.
I need to change my life.
And even since then, we're up to 375.
I promise.
So we're seeing success.
That should have won.
Use it on a sheet.
Our aircraft rescue firefighters, there's a saying in aviation that they're one and done or they come in threes, which this report reflects. Incredible shout out to our professional, not only professional, but our customer courteous ARC responders, because while many different airports have the facilities and the staff to meet those unfortunate demands, not all deliver with the level of customer service that ours do, as that can be somewhat of a disheveling event. Nothing major to report outside of small aircraft damage. We're talking about hot tires and a couple failed landing gears. But like I said, our responders were there to greet them right away and take care of those customers as well as their aircraft, which I was pleased to report. I mentioned some of these grants, but again, our TxDOT Aviation Ramp Grant in the amount of $50,000 will be utilized for airport improvements, including the corporate hangar phase 4 project, as well as the T hangar ramp rehab and repainting of runway 1634. And the amounts there just below 600,000. And then the airport improvement grant for the taxiway D realignment in the amount of 225. And this is our look back over the year. And as you can see, our costs were covered 104% by revenues. We'd like to see that number increase, and we have some tactics and approaches to accomplishing that in greater measure. But the only markable month might be May, where we were at 86%, somewhat reflective of the bad weather that we had for the air show. But overall, 104% of our costs were covered by revenues. We're pleased to say.
Good.
Thank you all for your time. Do you have any questions for me or for Sean that I could relate to him?
Council?
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs. Gotta know
Yeah,
that.
what's on the left?
And the Easter
And Easter bunny. And I've got you penciled in for the Easter bunny.
Oh.
Draw them for me, I'll pick an egg roll for the kids.
I think Christina probably. passed it.
If I could say something quick about Andrew, so he hinted to it, but he's our FBO manager. He's started just a short while ago and just has hit the ground running. He has done an excellent job. He has been bringing in more customers to the Temple Airport, and just has done such a phenomenal job. And he has this new software that I just absolutely am obsessed with. You can see planes that are coming in real time, whether they buy fuel from us, just so many different details that he'll be using for KPI and different reporting measures and bringing in more people to the airport. I hope I explained that well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's no secret I'm a younger guy, so I like technology and I like good data and metric feedback for how we're doing and being able to, that's part of what makes aviation fun, is that you can pull that information nowadays with the newer technology. It's exciting.
Where were you before?
I was with Texas Aero at the Waco Regional Airport. So moving from the private sector to government work, but I've got that entrepreneurial mindset. You can see the FBO as well.
Yeah. Glad to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Very much so.
And council will recall, part of what we want to do is run the, kind of distinguish the FBO from, the airport as a facility and run the FBO like a business. So Andrew is a good fit for that.
And there was lots of chatter around town about privatizing the FBO. So keep coming in at 104% plus.
Yes.
That'll shut some of that down.
Yeah, that's the goal. And I might speak out of turn and off script here, but we would like to get it towards an enterprise organization where we're financially independent in the city, and then that will lend itself to more improvements and growth for the airport.
Kevin, maybe between them and the summit, maybe between their revenue and your summit revenue, everything will break even.
He's gonna bring it all up with the golf course. It's been good.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. All right, very good. That's the end of, nope, I'm sorry, it's not either. Sorry, Ralph. Kenny or Kenny.
I do in the morning.
Well, I have an idea. I hate to age myself, but everybody remember WKRP? You remember the turkey drop? Always thinking.
Somebody catching up after doing TV. I'm learning.
So, thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor, for your patience. I have the distinct pleasure of being in charge of two other divisions or two departments that are, very, very different from each other, but both serve the same purpose. Fleet, you hardly ever see these guys, never think of them. They operate in the shadows, and then we have the solid waste department, which you see every day. So just a little bit about the fleet department, in charge of procurement and maintenance and decommissioning, roughly about 723 assets. That includes all the vehicles, all the four-wheelers, all the big trucks, diesels, police vehicles, fire, and yellow equipment. The average age of our fleet is about 9 years and about $32 million worth of assets. This is what it looks like. It's all that work, all those work orders and scheduled, non-scheduled maintenance, all that happens with about 13 technicians and a parts crew or warehouse crew of about 3 people.
Just in, we have we do have somebody to fill that vacancy over the auto shop.
Yes, yeah, actually, yeah, that's right. You know, breaking news, I think they'll be starting on Monday, new foreman. Or they're doing all their in processing right now. So. We have a new position that was filled, that bought our warehouse or our parts room to 100% with Mr. Hicks. We hired, working out really well. So we're glad to be 100% there, but we should be filling all our positions here soon. We put 56 new assets into service. That doesn't mean that we went up to, you know, over 100 or 780 assets now. Some of those were replacements. Once we decommission an asset, it just doesn't go to the junkyard. In most cases, or many cases, it becomes a form of revenue for the city. We put those up for auction and send them out. So here's some of the new toys we got. A lot of these, those two on the top there, they're not food trucks. Unfortunately, because I had an idea, actually, what you were talking about, Mayor. I whispered to Justin and said, if I could just find an RV that looks like a food truck, I could park there for $300 a month.
Hey, you got hooked up to the system and everything.
Yeah.
We got one coming up for sale pretty soon.
But these are some of our new toys here. Some solid waste new vehicles, and I believe Parks got some new some new equipment too.
What's the top right?
The top right, I think was that part of that? Yeah.
It's what?
Fourth Street.
Asphalt, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Next 90 days. So the next, last year, we got very fortunate and things worked out. We got all our ducks in a row, for lack of a better term. And we got this program going. This is a partnership with TISD where we bring in kids from their automotive technology program, and they actually do on-the-job training with them twice a week. So this is this program we renewed, and I believe on the 18th of this month, we will be welcoming back the second group. So we'll be having, again, like we did last year, we had a welcome.
Good.
And they will have come in, we'll feed them lunch, we'll show them around, give them a safety tour and so forth. And I wasn't expecting this from the first that came, because they came in half the year last year. But we got one candidate for one of our positions, actually. That's coming out of that senior graduate. So when that happens, I hope to make a big deal out of that.
We also had one apprentice over the summer.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, and again, we're gonna tailor that program again when the summer comes back. We opened it up to seniors and then realized that a lot of the seniors are not looking for temporary work. They want a long-term job, so it wasn't as inviting to those guys as it would be to the juniors who would be able to get that extra work and get paid. We're preparing for the next 90 days. We'll also be preparing winterizing our gear. This picture was taken last year somewhere near Bucky's. We are trying to get some equipment that's going to help us should we run into the same problem. Apologies. This is the second sand spreader that we're going to be mounting here soon. We're going to be for Kenny's team. That one is sitting there at the yard ready to go for a while. We have one spreader, and I'm sure that Kenny can attest that it wasn't as dependable as we want, but then again, we weren't expecting to get these things consecutive seasons. This one here would have been mounted earlier, but Kenny insisted that we put stickers on it with his last name. So
I will tell you this, we ran the new one last year and I was seeing an improvement. How we reacted to the storm event. We actually have 3 now because the new patch truck we bought is capable of spreading sand.
Justin, has Heather named this yet?
I don't think she knows about this.
no.
Give her a second.
Yeah.
Kenny, she'll have a name for it.
It's actually named, it's actually Henderson, and that has nothing to do with Kenny on the stickers, just in case you're going, oh, they really did put Henderson stickers on it. No, it's just a brand, it's just a coincidence.
Does that go on permanent mounted or does that go on?
No, what it is those things slide in and out very easily. We can, once the truck's set up for it, we can have it in the truck probably in 5 minutes and off the truck in 5.
What kind of truck? What's the other, truck's other purpose?
6-yard. It's our 6-yard truck.
This is the dump truck.
Ren, they're taking this naming not seriously. It's like name her Big Bertha or something.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking
That's
about.
what we find. Piece of equipment.
I like that Heather names her equipment.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well. Anywho, now. So anyways. Hope that we don't need this stuff, but now that we have it, I have a feeling that we won't see a storm for a while. So, next 6 months will be, just business as usual. A few highlights there is that we're changing from the Synovia system to the CalAmp system, and that is a GPS system that goes in our vehicles. Not just our vehicles, but citywide vehicles. So yeah, they are equipped with GPS. We're hoping that that is for accountability purposes, and also for to manage behavior. Those things they seem to work, and we got a much better system there with CalAmp, and we're changing up. Also CDL training. Normally we do CDL training in-house, or we do some on-the-job training. We have a CDL driver that takes his time and helps the other guys out. We're kicking that up a notch, and we'll have 7 of our heavy-duty technicians will be going to formal training. That's from a third-party company that will be coming and training our CDL drivers. That's we hope that's going to pay dividends for us, and it's also going to make the shop a lot more flexible, because right now we have technicians that can work on heavy duty equipment but can't drive them. So that takes another technician out of a job to move a vehicle and test drive a vehicle. Solid waste. We have Mr. Bradley here, who's our division director for solid waste this year. So if you have any questions or complaints, there he is. He's over there. Solid waste, that's what our org chart there looks like. What's interesting about that is, although it looks like a lot, you'll see in the upcoming slides, we're gonna wonder how we do this. We look at the total miles driven. This is for the past 7 months. It's about 344,793 miles. That's, distance to the moon in 7 months, and a little bit, back before you just run out of gas. Tonnage, 67,253 tons of trash. If you want to bring that down to pounds, 134,505,520 pounds of garbage.
Sorry. Sorry.
Again, calls. We have, how many CSRs?
3.
3 CSRs. If you look at the calls, the number of calls, but in January, January through July, they average about 148 calls per day, or 18 calls per hour.
What do you mean calls? You
So
mean residents?
just people calling to let them know how good of a job they're doing. So, yeah, that's all right, 19,724. You guys are doing great. And I'm being sarcastic about that. So, on top of all that, This is, these guys are out there all day, every day. I'm working in the heat, and they do a great job, despite what you might hear. We never hear, out of all those, over almost 20,000 calls, where you might get 10 calls of, somebody calling and saying, hey, guys, thanks for picking this up. I know this stuff, so.
And I will say, if you look at February and March, that was when we had a lot of limbs that we were dealing with. And that's why those numbers are higher on.
Yeah. And so, in those 7 months, we also welcomed about 1,095 new solid waste customers. That's about an average of 156 new sets every month. We don't get a new truck and a new driver every month. So we're having to keep up with these things, optimizing routes and just really adapting to the growth of the city. How many stops are in one route?
We try to keep it around 900, but we're currently probably around 1,200.
So, almost a tenth of a route.
Yeah.
Some highlights, of course, some of you were there, when we opened up the new solid waste complex. That thing is, it's pretty impressive. If you haven't been there, I'm sure that Ms. Marsha Mellon over there can accommodate a tour. Get you guys to go out there and check it out. It's pretty nice. One of the features that you probably won't see everywhere is on the bottom right-hand corner. That's a truck wash. That allows our garbage trucks to get washed practically every day right after they come back. I'll put it into the thing. We did a lot of outreach, working with Temple and Belton ISDs. We had a shred event. And I guess they're the 5 community service centers. Here's some of the new toys in that new complex, and it's bring them here. They're all named. You got Joe, the food composter. Again, in case you haven't seen that or know about it, what we do is we actually collecting scrap right now, sort of a pilot. Not everyone has a container at home to collect food scraps, but you can collect food scraps at home and bring them over to the solid waste complex. You dump them in one of those brown containers that sits near the scales. And once we get that thing full, we fire it up. Burns to about 1,000 degrees, is it? Or
I think it's more than that.
yeah. Well, it just converts all that food scrap into a compost that then can be distributed. Everything else is pretty. Well, the other new one is that material handler Mac. That thing helps us push and compact the trucks. Before we were using a conveyor to move all the material into an 18-wheeler or the back of a trailer, and then it would get compacted there. Now we're dropping it into a void on the material handling floor, and it goes into a open top and gets compacted there. Estelle is going to be spreading her stuff here in November, first week of November for the training. Got some new team members, drivers, and I wasn't trying to be facetious in any way, but when I got this slide from Justin, I said, Justin, are these guys still here?
They are.
They are. Because with turnover, it's, especially when it's, 100 degrees for, 70 days in a row, turnover can get you, but no, we got a pretty good team here, and they're all here.
Justin, does Vladimir go by Vladimir or just Vlad?
We actually just call him Taylor.
Yeah.
Great. So we have Vladimir. We also have a what's it? Who do we do? The
Austin.
Bob.
He's no longer with us. Yeah.
Yeah. When we lost Johnny Bravo, or
Mhm.
We used to have a Ricky Trevino too.
Yeah.
What about Blaze? You didn't lose
No,
Blaze.
no.
Blaze is still here.
Okay.
we should get a Twitter account for his mustache.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right, this is the day here, this kind of. Anyway, so we're at 94% right now. We have four vacancies that we are in the process of filling. And we will soon, I hope, we should have this posted, if not posted yet,
Maybe tomorrow.
so maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be posting a heavy duty truck technician that will be working solely with our solid waste department and the new digs. We're looking at, we're hoping to have a lot of candidates. We're looking at one in particular right now who is a graduate of the TISD program that was a student with us last year. Next 90 days will be going from Routeware to Rubicon, right? Which is our route optimization software. We also plan on having our heavy duty, I'm sorry, everything is heavy duty, that starts to change, but our hazardous household waste event on the 28th. And with our new equipment, our new software, we should be doing some more residential route optimization and balancing.
Still running 4 days a week.
4 days a week for now.
Yeah.
The soil amendment, that's the distribution that we're hoping to do once we get our, start cranking some more food scraps. We should be able to have a program where we can start distributing that. We are in current, not necessarily negotiation, but we are working with our friends from Waste Management with the plans of eventually having a renewable natural gas plant right in our own landfill. That should be 90 days.
That's a lot to do in 9 days.
We can do it though. Just
Pressure, no
just
pressure.
There you go. I'm sorry. And any questions for Fleet Solid Waste?
Anybody? Covered it all.
Mine's gonna be as short as mine. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hernandez.
You're always so talkative.
I know, I never stop talking.
Hardly shut you. This is some of our key accomplishments for the last 90 days. We have upgraded the video detection at several of our traffic signals through either just image or we actually had a system that's no longer being supported. We had to switch it over. It took forever to get to new cameras. Everything in traffic signal world is over a year out. So.
It's also mostly overseas stuff.
You would think so, but no, our cabinets and stuff are actually made in Brownwood, Texas. And I can't even get them. So.
You can go pick those up.
We got them. We completed design on Orion and Highway 317, so we're gonna start construction on that. We actually completed design and are out for bid right now to repair the Loop 363 lighting to repair corrupted theft of stole wires. So it looks like that original number we come up with, $1 million, that's what. So we did our first phase of slurry seal and overlay for the streets this week. This year so far. We're fixing to go into our second phase. I think y'all can see that. We painted them nice and black, so we reconstructed Pappas Court, and we reconstructed all kinds of little sections of it. It's dry weather, it's eat us up. So
New slurry field would be pretty.
it does. We've had some what we call reflective cracking on it, but we expect that, especially this time of year. You'll see it really on the edges. Vegetation drawing all the moisture out from underneath that road that it can stay alive. And as it does that, it dries out and it cracks and it reflects up to the top. We are crack sealing all these roads before we slurry seal them, but it's just nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. This was the streets that we overlaid.
You can ask questions.
Yes, sir.
when and if we ever get any rain, does the opposite happen? I mean, so you sort of set everything nice and pretty when it's super dry, and then we get a bunch of rain, soil expands again, what happens?
Well, what you really try to do at this point is keep the moisture from getting under there again. It'll finally weep its way, but it won't. But if you let the moisture get under it, it'll expand and degrade and you have a bigger problem. So, I'll give you an instance. I remember years ago, we were crack sealing. We had, I think 2011 is the last time we ever really had this kind of ground heat. And we were crack sealing on 50th. It was kind of a neat road, and it did, and the cracks got really wide. And as they were crack sealing, rats were coming up the cracks. That's how deep they went, you know.
Y'all build a road with anything. Here we also. We also experience pains going with the weather change both ways with the water lines as the ground expands and contracts.
I can see that.
Yeah, it affects a lot of speeds. And we really nothing we can do about that. But it'd be nice if they would go apart and go back together and sell.
The grandma just let us water a little bit.
Yeah. And most of you see it on rural sections with you, actually, the watering helps, it does help us. Because the rural sections where you have trees next to the curb are the worst. That's where they really like all these. This was overlay. This is Silcoat. In our next quarterly update, you'll see another map for the next phase. You get a lot more bang for your buck with the slurry seal. Unfortunately, a lot of the roads are just too far gone. It's just what you just got to take that asphalt off. So, so. Concrete crew kicked off. Pretty good news. We're doing some we've got a list a mile long for the last 20 years of people that have asked to. So this is just kind of a couple of the first jobs that they kicked off. We got a full crew. We've got 2 experts. I would put them in the expert ranks really good. We actually took one. So look forward to that. We're working on right now. Working on and the new will still be included in big contracts. Right. There's a couple there it is. This I'm thinking this was utility, you know. And I will tell you this, for our current contract, just to do that little piece would have been about $4,000 we did for one. Excellent. So that's something I was going to say.
There's enough, it'll pay for itself.
So these are some of the roads that we did partial reconstruction or full reconstruction. You'll see the whole edge over there give way simply because of the drought. Simply because of the drought. I don't know what happened since the last time we talked, but it seemed like they were aiming for every traffic signal they were hit all over. It was just a rash of them. And it's very expensive. This happens. It is. And
does auto insurance cover that?
It will, and we get it. We go after it. We get a lot of times when they hit them, by the time we get there, especially trucks, semis they don't even know they hit it. Taking a cabinet off and so we almost use our spares up. So we're waiting. We've got 12 new cabinets coming right now. But it seems like every time I call them, it's big. But we just had a rash of them. And you can see the one over by the VA, it just destroyed it. So. One thing we've done is we're 100% in traffic signal, and I haven't seen the weekly report for this week. I think we're actually 80-something% transportation. It wasn't there. And then drainage, we're a little behind, but I think we're in the 70s, which you think, oh my God, 70, that's great for us right now. It's excellent. There's a couple of guys, and I want to thank y'all for the compensation study and increasing that pay. The guy in the center right there, we got him from TxDOT. He was 20 years at TxDOT. And he chose to come to work for us because we were actually able to pay him as a supervisor. So we actually got 2 from TxDOT and 1 from the big contractor. And we're still going, we're still hiring. This is just people from this last time we talked. And the career day that we had put 3 on board from the career day before this meeting and sitting over there. I got 2 more ready to hire from that. 5 people from out of that career day. it works. So. Next 90, we're gonna reconstruct Dogwood and Sycamore. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Yes.
Thank you, thank you,
They're
thank
not
you.
rebuilding.
You don't know how happy that's gonna make some nice people.
We're gonna rebuild it. We're gonna rebuild the sidewalks on both sides of the Avenue H overpass over the tracks.
Thank you.
We're gonna redo some curb and gutter. We're gonna make it all the ADA compliant. We were gonna contract it out. We're gonna do it with in-house crew. Because their skill levels there to do that. So we're gonna do it in-house. We're gonna start actually the demo next week. We'll start tearing it out. Get it redone. Phase 2 of slurry seal and overlay. We're hoping to get that started November, maybe late October. We're gonna repair some drainage issues at community gardens until the next one. We're gonna upgrade the school zone flashers on 2483 at Lake Belton High School to the cantilever type instead of the little ones you see. So we're gonna upgrade those to the big ones. And we'll be in construction of the Highway 317 and Orion signal. One of the problems, once you start building the traffic signal, you can get built in 90 days. Easy. We ain't even been able to get a start time because we don't know when the materials can get here. We're waiting on the companies to call us back. So I have no date. I'm hoping the next time. You may see this again. And repair of lighting for Loop 363 bid opening is Monday. I think we may have one bidder also traffic, so hopefully we can get that done and get those fixed because we get a ton of calls. And TechSite hadn't fixed it for us either. I think I need to go. Any questions? Short and sweet.
That's just somebody's hard on. It's just nice to hear that something you guys are hard on.
We're getting there. If we get it, if we're 100% by the next, then I'm gonna be somewhere in the region. So it's been very stressful, very stressful.
Well, get it.
But
Every time you do wonderful slurry seal, they
Mhm.
look so nice. At least 5 people from 5 separate streets call and say, look, you did that street, where's my street?
there's we try to spread it out. We do have, we hired a company to tell us an order of streets to do. Do we stick by that 100%? No, because you try to spread it out all throughout the city.
Right.
Yeah, sure, I understand.
And their streets may not be eligible. You don't understand, you gotta know what's underneath the ground. And we kind of have an idea. And some roads you think, well, you take the asphalt off and rebuild it within 6 months, it's gonna be. The contractor we have for that slurry seal is a company called Viking. And I've never worked with, I've been here a long time and I've never worked with turnkey. They come in, they get it done and they clean and mess up. So they're very good.
The striping's nice too.
There's-
Nice
well,
to do the
that's a
pavement
different
markings
color.
as well.
But they are good. And also I want to give credit to the guys that stuck it out through COVID and stayed and didn't left and really kept everything afloat, which was only a handful that stayed the whole time. And so we kind of, and that without them,
Thank you, Casey. All right. Next item is, we'll now move into executive session. It is currently 4:00. Item 6, the executive session language reads, we're going to receive and discuss a briefing regarding certain economic development, prospects of potential real property acquisition. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072 and 087, the city council may meet in closed session to discuss or deliberate purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in any open meeting has been would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiation with third person, discuss or deliberate commercial or financial information received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city of Temple, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to such a business prospect.
final action will be taken. Will not be taken.
Yeah.